Hello and welcome to Football City. To flag or not to flag? That is the question. That is the big debate that is going on in the country at the moment. This is a conversation that's a little bit left field of football. I mean, it is football related, but we are on an international break at the minute where England will be playing a couple of matches and we'll see England flags waved and shown all over the place. And the conversation is about whether or not the England flag is patriotic or whether it's provocative, and what does it represent at this moment in time. The sad thing is that in this country, we are living in very polarised times where people are very divided, people's opinions are very, very different, and it seems like we can't find a middle ground where we can discuss things in a healthy space. So that's what I'm hoping to do here. Now, this has come around really because, amongst other things, but Gary Neville shared a clip to social media the other day where he talked about a tragedy which happened in Manchester, and he's also talking about the England flag, the Union Jack, and what it represents at this moment in time. So he shared his thoughts. A lot of people agree with what he said. Obviously some people disagree as well. And then later in the day, Simon Jordan on TalkSPORT responded to this video, and a lot of people agreed with what Simon said and disagreed with Gary. So I'm going to play you these two clips in case you haven't seen them, and then we're going to have a conversation about it here, and also, you know, just my own personal thoughts and feelings about this. So I'm going to play you probably around 60 seconds of this clip from Gary Neville. Just before I do that, can I just thank you in advance for clicking on this video? I really appreciate that. If you do like football related content and conversations and, you know, grown up conversations like this, please hit that subscribe button. Please subscribe to the channel. So I'm going to play you a bit of Gary's video, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, and you'll see there's a certain bit that's really got people's backs up. So check this out.
I just kept thinking as I was driving home last night that we're all being turned on each other, and the division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing. Funnily enough, on one of my development sites last week, there was a Union Jack flag put up, and I took it down instantly. And some people might be watching this and thinking, well, Gary, you're not very patriotic. I played my country 85 times. I love my country. I love Manchester and I love England, but I've been building in this city for 15, 20 years, and there's no one put a Union Jack flag up in the last 15 to 20 years, so why do you need to put one up now? Because quite clearly it's sending a message to everybody that there is something you don't like. The Union Jack flag being used in a negative fashion is not right, and I'm a proud supporter of England, of Great Britain, of our country, and we're championing it anywhere in the world as being one of the greatest places to live.
So he said all of those things, and I think he said some really good stuff there. And obviously, you know, so he's talking about this tragedy which happened in Manchester. He mentions the fact that it's white, middle-aged British men who seem to be stoking the flames of division. And that's the comment that I think has got a lot of people's backs up, and obviously talks about taking down a flag off of one of his building sites because, you know, that wasn't happening 10 years ago. So I'm going to come back to that comment again. So in response to that, Simon Jordan on TalkSPORT, not a big fan of Gary Neville, responded, and he had this to say. Again, I'm going to play you about 60 seconds of this, so check this out.
I think it's astonishing, in the wake of an Islamist terror attack, that he decides to have a go at middle-aged white men. Maybe the angry middle-aged white men are the ones that worked on minimum wage inside his hotel. I don't know. I think he's a champagne socialist and a coward. I think it's a dreadful thing to have said.
How is he a coward?
Well, I think the real issue is about radical Islamist extremism, and he doesn't have the balls to call it out for what it is, rather than suggest that people that are challenged in our country about what's happening, he's insulated from these things. He lives in a very rarefied world where his money and privilege has enabled him to live behind a gated environment, not have to worry about NHS appointments, not have to worry about people being attacked in the streets by immigrants that shouldn't be here in the first place. He doesn't have to worry about these things, and so he has the ability to be able to sit there and observe in such a way that insulates himself from it. And I think it's an appalling stance to have taken. He's entitled to his view. He's entitled to a view. We are quite happy to wave every other flag in this country, whether it's Palestinian flags, Ukraine flags, or any other flag that we feel that we're able to wave. But when you're talking about people in this country that have legitimate concerns and want to have a legitimate value set and push back against what they're having forced upon them, for Gary Neville to say what he's just said is the exact embodiment of what I said, which is a champagne socialist, which is insulated from the real world, and a coward, because the real issue is about some of the extremism that's going on in this country.
At this precise...
So, Simon clearly disagreeing, and, his comments doesn't like Gary Neville. We know that that's absolutely fine that you disagree with someone, and he's just making his point clear. Okay, fair enough. So, here's where I come at this. I'm going to talk about his comments in a second, but like I said at the start of the video, we are very polarised as a nation. It's like you either have to be this side or that side. Every issue has to be black and white. You either agree with me or you disagree with me, and it's like there's nothing in between. There's no nuance. There's no meeting in the middle. When you look at the comment sections of these various videos on various platforms, depending on where you look, some people are like, I 100% agree with Gary. Gary is correct. Gary's comments are spot on. On other platforms, somewhere else, it's like, no, Simon is 100% correct. Simon is right. Gary is wrong. And the fact is, both have opinions and both have things that I would agree with in both of their opinions. And the fact is, two things can be true at the same time. You can disagree with people slightly. You can say, I don't massively agree with that, but both of them are saying things that I believe are correct. I do agree with Gary in the fact that I believe the flag has been weaponised. And in defence of Gary, I think when he's saying the thing about white British men are the ones who are stoking up hatred and division, I know people are annoyed about that because it's off the back of this tragedy at the Manchester synagogue. But I think when he's talking about white British men being the problem, he's not referring to all white British men. I think what he's referring to, I believe what he's referring to are politicians and people in positions of power who have something to gain by certain sections of the country getting riled up, getting angry, having a reason to voice their grievances, and if they can weaponize that, and we're targeting certain white British men who will get riled up, and that kind of leans into a far right way of thinking. I believe that's who Neville is referring to. That's not saying that all white British men are stoking up division, and I think that's what people are taking the wrong way. It's not a blanket statement to say that all white British men are the problem, but if you take it as a blanket statement, if you decide that no, that's what it means, you're saying all white British men are the problem, then you can argue, then you can make your argument that it's racist and it's terrible what he said. I disagree. I also agree with Simon Jordan that yes, you should be able to fly your own flag in your country. If you are British, you are proud of being English, waving a flag or putting up a flag doesn't mean that you're a racist, doesn't mean that you hate other people. Listen, I'm proud of being English. I love the fact that I'm from England. When I go abroad, I tell people where I'm from. Very proud to be British. I play football, I play five-a-side, I play eight-a-side, not very well, I must say. And when I do, I wear England replica jersey. Proud to be England. When England are playing in a Euros or a World Cup game, I am 110% behind England. I want England to win because I absolutely love England. So I believe you should be proud of your country. You should be proud of your nation, where you're from. So I agree with Simon Jordan on that. When he talks about Gary Neville sitting on his high horse, being a champagne socialist and all that kind of business, I'm thinking, well, Simon, you're also rather wealthy, mate, and you sit up here. So this whole thing about Gary's not a man of the people, he doesn't know what it's like to be in a working class environment and all that kind of business. I'm like, look, both of you guys have been millionaires for a long, long time. You both made lots and lots of money. I read Simon Jordan's book where he talked about at one point in his life where he had so much money in the bank that he was making 40 grand of interest per day. So he made his money. It's all good. I mean, all this conversation is around this tragedy that happened at the synagogue in Manchester, which is horrible and tragic. And we see lots of these tragedies happen, and I hate it when they do. But this is where the polarisation comes in. When a tragedy happens and people are injured or people are tragically killed, sadly, the first thing that happens isn't always, are the victims okay? How many people have been hurt? How many people have been injured? How many people have died? That, sadly, is not the first thing that people go to think about. What they go to think about first is the perpetrator. What colour were they? Were they brown? Were they an extremist? Were they a radical leftist? Were they on the far right? And that, to me, is like point scoring, because it's less about the victims. It's less about the people who've been hurt. It's more about who did it. What colour are they? What side of the political aisle do they stand on? So it's almost like it's about being right, and it's always about whether that person who did the crime falls on your side of the political aisle, and if they did, that gives me more fuel to demonise your camp and be against you. So that's what makes me sad. That's why this polarisation is horrible and tragic. So you can agree with Gary Neville, you can agree with Simon Jordan, you can agree with parts of Neville, you can agree with parts of what Jordan says. You know, fully agreeing with Gary Neville doesn't mean you're a woke far leftist. Agreeing with what Simon Jordan had to say doesn't mean you're a far right racist. Some people will say, yeah, it does. If you agree with him, you're against everything. You're against everything that the other person says, and it's not like that. You can actually have a middle ground. I just wanted to say this about flags as well. This is what I personally think about the whole flag situation. I see lots of flags going up. I see flags on streets. There's a street not so far from where I live where there's loads of flags that are out, loads of Union Jack flags out there. And I didn't see that not so long ago. This feels like it's a very, very recent thing. But what I want to ask is, where was this love for flags 5 years ago? 10 years ago? In that video that Gary Neville said, he talks about the Union Jack flag being put up and he's seen other flags being put up, and he's saying this wasn't happening 5, 10, 15 years ago. Where was the love for it back then? And it makes me think of it like this, to use an analogy. I've been married for 8 years, okay? Love my wife to bits. And from time to time, I do put out little comments or posts on social media about how much I love her. So we've been married 8 years, so just had our anniversary. I put out something saying, I love my wife. But that's not the first time I've done that. A year ago, there'll be a post on there about how much I love my wife. 2 years ago, there'll be a post on there about how much I love her. 4 years ago, there was a post. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, regular post. 8 years ago, when we were first together, before we were together, talking about how much I love this woman. So there is a track record and there is history of me putting out posts about how much I love my wife. So it's not like I've just started doing this now. I've always done it. There's always been a record of me doing that on social media. And it's similar. I liken this to the flag thing, because if you love the flag and you're just doing that now and you're just putting flags up and you're putting them on your street and you're hanging them out your window, that's all good. But where was this energy 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 8 years ago, or 10 years ago? This feels like a very recent thing that people are doing. So if you do love the flag, why are you doing it now, but you weren't doing it 10 years ago if you've always loved the flag and you've always loved it so much? That's what I wonder. And the other thing I want to say as well is just to talk about this white British men thing, this thing that Neville said, which he probably could have phrased that better. But like I said earlier in the video, I think he's speaking about people in positions of power. I don't think it's a blanket statement about white British men. However, there is a stereotype about white British men who have racist thoughts, tendencies, ideas, or who are just flat out racist, okay? That's a negative stereotype. And the thing about a stereotype is there is some truth to it because it does exist. Now, here's what I feel about stereotypes. There are stereotypes that affect us all, regardless of your skin colour, regardless of your gender. There will be some sort of negative stereotype that exists out there about you. So, for example, I am a black middle-aged man. Oh, gosh, I'm middle-aged. I am. Damn. So, there is a black male stereotype, a negative black male stereotype about absentee fathers, that black men have produced children to one woman, two women, several partners, and then they're not around to look after those children and see them grow up. That is a negative stereotype. However, there might be some truth to that, okay? So if someone comes out and says, you know what, there's a lot of black men who don't look after their children, yeah, that is a problem, okay? Now, me, as a black male father, I could get offended by that and be like, how dare you? That is a terrible thing to say. However, there is some truth to it. And secondly, it doesn't bother me because I'm a black male father who is present for my children. I am married to my children's mother. I'm there. I'm present. I live with my little one. It's all good. So that stereotype that says all black men, excuse me, I just had to cough there. All black men are bad parents. It doesn't affect me because that's not who I am. So therefore, if I see that stereotype being talked about, I don't need to get offended. It can be brushed off my shoulders because I think, well, that doesn't apply to me. So therefore, whoever says that, I don't need to call for their heads. I don't need to say they should be fired from their positions because I know who I am. I also know lots of other black fathers who are also present with their children, who are married to their child's mother, or whether they're a single parent, a single black father, they are looking after their children, they are raising those children up, they're not absentee fathers. So I know that stereotype, whilst it does exist in pockets, it's not the same for every single black man, every black male father. So when I come back to the white British male thing that Gary Neville says about there are white British men who stoke the flames of fire, or these are men who are racist or have negative feelings about people who are different to them. If you're a white British male, and that doesn't apply to you, if you're a white middle-aged British man and you look at those comments and you think, but that doesn't apply to me because I'm not racist, I love the England flag, but I don't hate others, I just love my country, then again, dirt off the shoulder. Brush it off because it doesn't apply to you. So therefore, there's no need for you to get offended or decide that Neville needs to lose his job at Sky, or you're cancelling your subscription because you're so offended. It sounds like cancel culture to me. If that doesn't apply to you, then why be bothered about it? It's a negative stereotype that exists in pockets, but brush it off and move on. So the last thing I want to do is just play one comment from a caller into TalkSPORT who I feel like summarises this, and he puts it quite nicely. So just going to play this, see what you think of this.
Military in the Royal Navy for 11 years. I've been a police officer for 24 years, retired this year. And I've been proud to serve under the Union flag. The flag itself shows inclusivity. It's three different flags in one, and I think everybody should be proud to fly the flag, whether it's the St George Cross or the Union flag. It's the intent with which it's flown is the problem, and the flag has been weaponised by a minority, which is making the majority feel ashamed to be British or English or whatever they choose to describe themselves as. This country is absolutely amazing. I've seen the best of it. I've seen the worst of it. Every race, colour, creed, religion. This country is amazing, and it's being undermined, one by politicians who make us feel ashamed of what we are and what we do, and a minority, not just right-wing, but left-wing as well. And those of us in the middle are made to feel the brunt of what is going on, and it's upsetting.
Great point. I forget the caller's name, but I think, yeah, he just summarises it perfectly, that the flag is a wonderful thing, but there are people who have weaponized it, for negative reasons. So yeah, just and that guy, he said he'd been in the military, so he knows what the flag represents and what it means. And I just think, yeah, he summarised it all perfectly. So just to summarise, yes, I believe the flag has been weaponised by certain groups who have negative reasons for doing that and are very anti others, very anti people who are not from this country, and it's been weaponized with negative connotations. But at the same time, I believe you should be able to fly the flag of your country and be proud of it, and be proud of who you are, being proud of being from this country, because it is a fantastic nation. I do love the fact of where I'm from. I am proud to call myself British. I love this country. So can you see what I mean? Two things can be true at once, and I think what that caller said, there were two things in there that he said that can be true at the same time, and that's where I stand. So what do you think about the whole flag debate? Are you offended, or are you like, just brush off any negativity? Where do you stand? We'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section. This has been Football City. I appreciate you sticking with me in this video. If you stuck to the end, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, leave a comment, and do all of that good stuff. And I'll be back soon with a brand new video. So until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. And thank you for watching.